Okay, everybody. Hello and welcome to the workshop today. I hope you can all hear me. If not, please raise your hand and we'll make sure that you can hear me all properly. A warm welcome to today's workshop around the Workday Consumer for startups. My name is Mareike Zöllner. I work for Microsoft Advertising as marketing lead, working on the startup and SMB segment in EMEA. And I'm really pleased to show you today the findings that we have uncovered around a new emerging persona profile, the Workday Consumer. But before we get started, I would love for you to see our agenda for today to know what's going to happen. So first, I'm going to give you a presentation about the Workday Consumer, the findings of our research, what we have uncovered, why it is important for you as a startup to know about this. And then I'm delighted to welcome a fantastic panel on stage, different experts from the industry who can all share a different perspective on what this means for startups. And then, of course, we will have enough time for an open Q&A where you can all ask questions that you want to know about how you can tackle this very new persona. And then please be aware, this is a 60-minute session, roughly. We have a bit more time at the end, so please stick along, tag along. Please feel free to speak to our experts even after the session. If you want to network, you're very welcome to. But let's get started. So I guess we all know the frustration of being stuck with legacy systems. Mostly it's with work IT systems. You know, at home we can choose the platforms and tools we love, we had freedom to use, and all the platforms that we feel are productive for ourselves. However, at work, we are often constrained with older legacy systems. And that, of course, doesn't really help us fulfill our true potential or be productive. And one of those legacy institutions is really the QWERTY keyboard. And is anybody here in the room who knows why we have such a crazy arrangement of letters in the QWERTY keyboard? Yeah? Perfect. You want to do it? Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great. Exactly. So from the typewriting age, it's exactly this. The typists back then, they were writing so quickly that they were jamming the keys and they were really breaking the machines. And so it made sense to create something super inefficient because it would slow the typist down. So exactly as you said. And you would think, well, why would nobody really think of something more reasonable? And there is something that is much better. It's the drawer system, the drawer keyboard. And it is really something that shows you here in the middle lane the different consonants, the vocals in the English language. They're all there in one middle lane, the most important ones. And you can really write 400 of the most common words in the English language only by staying on that middle lane there in the middle row. Roughly around 70% of the text that you write, you can write from that really comfortable setting of your hand. With the QWERTY keyboard, it is really 32% of comfortable writing, and you can only write around 100 of the English language's most commonly used words in the middle row. So you would think, why would nobody adapt to this new keyboard? This is very strange. And so the thing really here is, and it's key, people hate change. Nobody wants to leave their comfort zone or whatever they are used to and what have they become familiar to. And another legacy system is really the workspace. And some of you might remember how this looked like pre-pandemic. We all go to the office. This is just one of those things that is becoming outdated. And it is based on another legacy system. It is based on the Victorian model of work that back then really measured your performance and productivity according to the output you created in a certain set of time frame. And that was all great back then because this really empowered the Industrial Revolution. The problem is just that really doesn't make sense anymore because usually in most jobs we are not measured according to a certain set of output, we're given a certain set of time frame. And so it becomes meaningless. And as we've seen with the QWERTY keyboard, really people hate change. And that means at the same time that whenever a catalyst comes along that forces a big change, it means chaos. And so Deepak Chopra here was right when he said, every great change is preceded by chaos. And I mean, just mentioning COVID-19, we've all seen it. Total chaos, nothing was familiar, everything had to be disrupted. And so it's no wonder that the word unprecedented was the buzzword in 2020. And imagine for businesses, nothing was familiar as well. Everyone rushed to really enable people, their employees, to work from home. And we saw the digital transformation of 2 years within 2 months. And I've brought you here a really nice video clip around a business in the UK that have done it so well in addressing their customer audiences.
All of our relationships start over a cup of coffee. We're Clifton Coffee Roasters and we're based in the UK.
We supply coffee to people all over the world.
Taste is everything.
Before, we would complete tastings in person.
So when the pandemic hit, there was this moment where we were all like, stop. What are we going to do now?
So that's where Microsoft Teams comes in.
Teams allowed us to bring training and tasting to our customers digitally.
You can't taste coffee without knowing how to brew it.
How do you find it?
Do you get something like a sweet kind of ginger spice?
Don't go down the middle, go down the side.
Mine's very wonky.
Oh, I really want to do another one now.
We're able to reach more people at the same time.
20 to 30 times more customers than in person.
Teams has opened us up to a completely new way of thinking. This isn't a temporary fix. These are changes we'll take into the future.
So this was just one of those companies, some of those startups that have really reinvented the way how they address their customer audience and their consumers really in a new way. And now that you think, okay, the pandemic is over, this all doesn't make any sense more, we're going back to normal, I guess that would be a mistake, really. Just really thinking about the pandemic is not a moment in time. We know that this is the start of an era, how we consider how we want to work in the future and how our personal life is shaped as well. And so in our study, we asked and we found out that 50% of the people really want to keep on working from home because it works. It works for them. It is more flexible. And so coming from a point where it was really a luxury to ask your manager, hey, can I please work from home once a week, then it now is becoming really mainstream. And of course, businesses face challenges. And we asked businesses, well, how do you feel about this? And 12% said, we were totally ready to tackle COVID-19. And honestly, speaking with friends and family, I find this mildly optimistic. But 67% of the businesses said, well, now we're definitely going to enable our employees to become more connected and work remotely. And among others, these were all the different businesses and IT challenges that startups faced and brands faced in general. And I really want to talk about one specific one today. And that is the shift in consumer needs and behaviors. So in the wake of COVID-19, people are adapting how they live, how they interact with brands. And in an anywhere work era, this definitely means that there are boundaries that are getting blurred. And so there's no real start or stop. And so in November 2021, Microsoft talked with Forrester Consulting to enable a research study that is global and where we think about, okay, what are the brand's readiness to attract customers? What are they ready to really tackle their advertising and their marketing strategies? And also, how do consumer behaviors change? And what does that mean in terms of impact? And we found this new emerging persona, the workday consumer. However, we also saw that brands are not yet ready to seize this opportunity. And that means we found that there are 3 reasons really why that is the case. And the first reason is really the balance between privacy and personalization, getting that right. The second one is outdated consumer strategies that still existed. And the third one is really not being able to make the right decisions because of problems with the customer insights data. And really you understand that as a startup especially, really getting your marketing right, you need to know your audience. And when you know your audience, you can address them correctly. And this is something that you can seize now, right now where the persona of the workday consumer is emerging, in competition with big players because you are agile, you are flexible, you have the means, you can do this. And so this is definitely something that we want to address today. But first of all, getting a bit of an idea, who is the Workday consumer? So first of all, we know they are heavily engaged in PC. And this might be interesting just because beforehand, mobile was king, right? Like everyone was on mobile, but we see definitely a huge change here. The second thing is they are working a lot from home. That is the new normal. And the third very important part is they are blurring the personal and work tasks throughout the day, throughout their work hours. And so really the rise of the Workday consumer is starting with the way people think about this new personal and work-life blurriness. And imagine back then, in the day, from Monday to Friday, you would go to the office throughout the working hours. You were totally productive. You were in your work set mind, except for maybe on your smoke breaks, on your coffee breaks, during lunchtime. Okay. But then in the evening, when you come home, you change that shift and you make a shift towards the personal work, the personal life. And this is, of course, changing. Now, in the anywhere work era, this is getting blurred. And almost 60% of the people we asked, they put an equal importance to personal and work tasks during the work time. And so that means there is definitely a blur line here. And one of the most profound outcomes that we saw was that definitely there is the well-planned consumer decision journey that we know as beforehand, this is disrupted. And with the integration of work and life and the connection from anywhere really, this is definitely getting sped up. What is important to know, everybody who is working throughout the day on personal or work tasks, they are in a productivity mindset and they are researching across different verticals. However, many advertisers, and we found that it is 57% of the brand decision makers, really said, our brand is not yet ready to tackle this. Our brand is not really ready to address this audience. And so this is definitely something where understanding the new consumer behavior changes is going to really make a difference for your brand if you're able to use that for your own brand. Importantly, as I mentioned earlier, purchasing and researching is definitely something that these consumers do. And 56% said they really enjoy researching online. And this is a really important message for you. It even beats social media browsing. And 63% of the people said that they really are inclined to use their work PC for this. And so this research stage of the buyer persona is important for you to understand because this is exactly the moment where you want to address this audience and influence their intent, emotions, and then, of course, convert them into leads. And this is definitely here to stay. 45% of the people we ask want to increase their purchase in the next 12 months. And these are the top 10 categories that they purchased during work time. Definitely something to look out for when you're in that vertical. And since we're in Germany, just a few stats on that. 55% of the Germans are working from home, and 35% already are using 1 hour at least throughout their workday to do personal tasks. And so this is definitely showing that lines have been blurred, and what we found out really holds true here. This is just to give you a bit of an idea of the preferences on researching products and services in Germany. You can see really it is across the entire palette of verticals and industries. And just because I'm going to Crete now in summer and I'm really in this travel mode right now, I wanted to show you a bit of the travel insights here, which shows the importance of PC, being able to advertise through PC. And that means that researching, 66% of the audience is using a PC, and purchasing, 64%. When compared to former stats, that definitely means that PC is increasing. And so Microsoft is really there at the intersection of personal and work life, because we can reach people over 1.3 billion Windows devices. Just to make that more visual, it's 1 out of 6 people on the planet, which is huge. And so if you're thinking about scaling your advertising efforts, you definitely want to think about how can I connect with them? And you can connect with 1 billion people over Microsoft's ecosystem through digital sites, whether people are browsing, whether they are chatting, whether they are writing emails. So really get them at the moment where they are looking for things and having an intent. And you want to do that in a safe and in a trusted environment. And that is something we can guarantee you on all our sites. And this site is really just to give you a bit of an idea what is the reach here in Germany, at least on our search network. And it's 22 million unique monthly searchers, which is huge, especially if you think about scaling your advertising efforts. And really, if we're coming to a summary of this presentation, it means that you need to think about the Workday consumer is here to stay. It's really the starting point of this new development in consumer behavior changes. 9 to 5 is gone. Don't think about it. Everybody is connected anywhere all the time. Most brands are struggling with addressing this consumer. So you as startups, you have the chance right now to address this issue, make it your own, make it your unique selling point, and really try to address this audience in the right way when they are in the research mind. And then also Microsoft Advertising, as mentioned, is a solution and a great way to address and target the Workday consumer. The presentation shall leave you with a thought by Malcolm X: the future belongs to those that prepare for it today. Thank you so much. And now I'm really happy to welcome my fantastic panelists on stage. James Sutcliffe, founder and CEO of the Founding Network. Bernd Vermaaten, CEO of Solute. And Yaravi Lopez-Petersen, SMB Sales and Business Segment Lead for Microsoft Advertising. So, bitteschön. Great, thank you. So, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the panel today. Great to have you. So just to, I shortly mentioned your names, but perhaps you could give a brief introduction of yourselves and tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone, my name is James Sutcliffe. I'm the founder and CEO of the Founding Network. So we're a community of over 1,000 of the world's most innovative founders across London, Berlin, and New York. And our community is really built on the understanding that actually no matter what a founder's background or expertise, when it comes to their own business, it's just impossible to be an expert in every aspect of it. So we're really there to create a community that truly is an expert of every aspect.
Great.
Hi everyone, my name is Yaravi Lopez-Petersen and I work for Microsoft. I'm leading the SMB, or small medium businesses at Microsoft Advertising. And I'm based in Munich. For those who would like to engage afterwards, welcome to visit us in the Munich office. A little bit about us. So Microsoft Advertising empowers companies to achieve more through digital advertising. And we do that by providing tools, technology, insights, which are going to help them to be successful in their strategy on digital advertising. So I'm very much looking forward to talk to you today, and thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Bernd. I'm CEO of Solute for more than 5 years now. We are an e-commerce company now on the market for more than 18 years. And if I would have to bet, I would say Solute tells nothing to you. 80% would say, who's that? Maybe it makes it much easier for you if I tell you that we are running still the second largest price comparison platform in Germany called billiger.de. Then I would bet now 80% know it, who we are. And this also brings me then to the point, what are we doing? We have our core competency in bringing reach and conversion to more than 3,000 of our customers through billiger.de, which is one angle. But also through our private performance marketing team for Google, PLA, and Microsoft Advertising. And third, we are very big in the syndication business to increase reach for our customers through different partners. For example, Funke Mediengruppe, Testberichte.de oder Vergleich.org. So we are using them also to increase your reach as a partner. By the way, 150 staff, roughly 30 million plus. To give you some details also with regards to the size of our company.
Great. Big welcome. Thank you so much. So as just mentioned, the Workday consumer is a new persona. So Yaravi, would be interesting to know, throughout the past months, did you notice any changes in consumer behavior regarding the search? Anything that you would find worth mentioning to the audience?
Sure. Well, I think it is not a secret, right, that the pandemic brought challenges and changes in our behavior. And for many of us, those changes, to cope with the changes and the challenges was really hard, wasn't it? And what we discovered is that we found ourselves developing or evolving in a new consumer behavior, all of us, between, trying to find a new harmony between working and private life. And what we realized, and pointing out the research that we engaged with Forrester, is that 62% of the people who participated actually admitted to be, to be switching off between private life and working. And half of those, they actually admitted to be purchasing products, in this time, during working time. So when to be totally transparent, I am a total consumer day. I will say I transform myself into that. Why? Because I want to keep that harmony, right? We kept juggling between work and office and tasks to do. So I actually have to say, I find myself when I'm working and I have 5 minutes break, I do go and switch tabs to look for something that is about in my interest. So I'm totally into the new trend.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing that. James, after the pandemic, regarding the Workday consumer, is there anything that you noticed from your work with a lot of startups, or, the founding network itself, was recently so it's a bit of a startup itself, isn't it? So what would you say on that?
Yeah, so as you say, we see it from a couple of fronts. One is from our own experience, and again, to give you an idea, so we're a team of 7 staff, growing fairly quickly internationally. So we see it from our point of view. And one of the big things we noticed was just the dilution of time. I think pre-pandemic, we put so much emphasis on we've got to catch them at commuter time, or we've got to catch them on the lunch break. And that concentration is completely gone now. So that is something that internally we're adapting to constantly, and we're testing on wherever we can to find where else would really work. The other thing to note as well, just from speaking to those in our community, is it's clear that the pandemic affected everyone in terms of their customers' personas. But actually what we've kind of noticed is maybe it didn't affect everyone equally. So when we talk to a lot of packaged goods companies and the founder had fought all of their career to get into the big supermarkets, suddenly actually they're dealing with footfall plummeting within supermarkets. They're now completely D2C. So for them, it's not just figuring out the personas. It's almost starting again with their whole model. So you can see that almost as an advantage or disadvantage when they've got to re-look at the personas now. But yeah, I think it would be fair to say it didn't impact everyone equally, but it did have some effect on everyone.
Yeah, and absolutely agree. In the study, 51% stated that the amount of online purchases increased over the pandemic, with 44% thinking that it will continue to rise in the next 12 months. So also we found that the first huge challenge for brands is deciphering personas, and then building onto that, the next challenge is advertising to the right personas. So especially the struggle to have the right insight seems to make it hard for brands to make the right decisions. Bernd, you are running an agency that works with many startups. What do you recommend the audience to do for an insights-driven advertising strategy and get it right?
First of all, it's the normal thing you have to do. Find out who is your target group. Yeah. It's still the same you have to do. And then hopefully you create the right persona. And then you need to start thinking of how you want to set up the channels you want to target. And then there is a big challenge now we've seen in the last couple of years, even before pandemic, you need to be more and more aware of GDPR to be compliant with it. And many startups maybe oversee also that there is another challenge before you start, that the third-party cookies will be gone pretty soon, because key of all your strategies will be data. And it's not just data collecting, that can do everybody can do that. The key is, what are you doing with your data? Do data analysis, find out who is doing what on which channel in detail to really target the right audience there when you know who is your target group. And that's a problem. Many companies we work with oversee because they just collect data, but they have no clue what to do with it. So from my point of view, this is the first and most important starting point.
Great. Please feel free to chime in. Yeah.
I will totally agree on that, and I will say, building up on that, and I think it is about in-depth insights, which is changing, and also, understanding really the consumer from the personal behavior, from human behavior, understanding what is that they are thinking in the moment that they are switching off from work and private, when they are looking for products, when they are looking probably for your brand, understanding the feeling and the intention. I think that's going to be really, really important for the future in this new era of behavior.
Just one. So you need to think really from the first moment on, how can you track your customer? Retargeting, the way we know it from the past, will be gone. So a combination of collecting data plus first-party data plus a good cookie consent is absolutely key to track him at the right moment and then to present the right product to get the purchase at the end.
Yeah, I think it's a case of before you even get into the marketing, you need to really know what you're looking for. And I think, but as you're getting out there, you can get stuck in a trap as well, where you end up with a bit of analysis paralysis, right? Where you almost have so much data and you just don't know what to take from that. So I think that's really important. But I suppose to take this back to the beginning with the personas, and I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's so important for companies of all sizes. I obviously have a particular interest in scale-ups, but for them, it's not just the targeting, it's actually how you communicate to your current customers, it's how you actually develop your products. You need to have those personas. And as founders and anyone that's running a growing business, you need to look at that regularly. And I'd suggest doing that every time you look at the marketing budget, because as we're all saying, there's no point setting a marketing budget if you don't know exactly who you're going after and who you're going to engage. So you need to be looking at both and aligning both the personas and marketing budget every chance you get.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, you mentioned the third-party cookie phase out. So everybody is obviously affected by it. How can startups make sure to have a solid targeting strategy in that regard? I mean, it's a big question. It's if you have an answer, of course.
Yeah, I think for me, they need to see this less of a challenge and more of an opportunity, right? Because there's a big divide, which is the demise of cookies, iOS, GDPR, everything else that comes with it. For more mature brands, and by that I mean brands that are 3 years old, not really, really old, manage to take advantage and reach that critical mass using these techniques. And newer brands just can't do that. So actually, they need to look for their competitive advantage, and looking and really understanding those personas might just be that advantage they need.
I think also it will be really, really important that startups or company, they really understand who and identify who are the partners in the marketplace who can help them, to target that audience and target those consumers. I think it's important, that you go with partners who actually, have a little bit more in-depth analysis, but also who understands the policy and restrictions when it comes to data privacy. I think that will be a very good point.
And even if you know the personas, and even if you have a good campaign setup, do your homework with your standard setup. Good cookie consent, be GDPR compliant. Second, really, if you want to make your customer curious, if he is getting curious and getting on your page, you need a fast loading time. You need a good checkout journey. These are the normal standard homeworks you have to do. For example, a checkout. If you have more than 5 steps, a churn rate will increase. So it's not just the Workday consumer is changing its behavior. It's also that we see that the attention time, the attention span of a customer is decreasing so fast. And if you want to engage him really, if you want to get the sale at the end, it's not just identify the persona, do your homework also with the rest of your journey that you have to do.
Perfect. No, great points. Do you have an example of a startup, a brand that has found the right strategy regarding deciphering personas and targeting their customers?
I've got one in my mind, yeah, indeed. It's Snox, it's a German company. Unfortunately, they're not our customer. That's really sad.
They're in the room.
No, he's not. But they're doing a really, really good job. They really do a very good targeting on all different channels that they're using. They're increasing and growing heavily. So what I see from the outside, it's a really good job that they're doing.
So I don't have an example of a company, but I have an example how they target me, actually, while I was working and, looking for a product. So basically, we have all meetings all day long. And sometimes between meetings, we have just 10 to 15 minutes, right? So before coming here, so I live in Munich, so before coming here, I was trying to kind of cope with different things that I had to finish, including this presentation, but also things at home. So I was juggling, basically. And between 2 meetings, I had 15 minutes, and I was thinking, how it's going to be the weather. So I type weather, right? And then it shows me, it's going to be raining. And then one day before, I actually was searching for Kinderkleidung, right? Like clothes for kids. And then I thought, it's going to be raining. And in my mind, I was thinking, I need to buy new boots for my daughter, new raining boots for my daughter, right? Without that, I was typing it. And then I start to look for, again, Kinderklamotten. And then I was like, I'm going to go and put shoes. And then suddenly, out of nothing, right? native ad came in, not telling me about these are the boots, but actually talked to me or bringing me into reading around why type of boots were actually ecology friendly and the sustainability about it. So I kept reading, and at the very end, it was like, in case you're interested, here, you could buy boots for kids, raining boots, and so on. And guess what? I clicked, right? So, and I didn't buy it yet, but I will buy it for sure. But what I'm saying is that journey of not only showing an ad, but making me emerging into that message of my intention of purchasing, I think that was very, very strong. And the brand did a fantastic job on that.
Yeah, so we see founders in our network get this very right, and we also see them get it very wrong as well. One of the ones that I think is doing a great job of this is a guy called Danny Gray in the UK. He runs War Paint for Men, which is men's makeup, effectively. And Danny's story is that he suffers with body dysmorphia, which is why he launched the brand. And they have got just such a deep understanding of who their customer is and who their potential customers are. And I think one advantage they've got of that is Danny, the founder, is that persona. So they use him very, very well to relate to their customers and prospects and whatever else it may be. But also they do things on the side as well. So they're massive advocates for mental health for different areas, and they know actually where their product can actually really help people on the mental health side of things as well. So they have that sort of greater purpose behind it. And I think they do a really good job of really setting those personas.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all those examples. I think that always really helps to visualize a bit and have a look, also get some inspo at the end, how others do it. One of the results of our study was really that we should move a bit away from the since only demographics and traditional characteristics when targeting your audience. You should also think about in what type of mindset are they right now in? Are they in their productivity mindset? Are they working on their PC? Are they at home? All these different things. And Yaravi, what would you suggest to startups in order to come out on top? And Bernd, James, please feel free to jump in.
So I will say, I mean, we have spoke a little bit about it, but I will say understanding, first of all, understanding what is going to be their strategy, what is that they want to achieve apart from only selling, what is the impact they want to have on the consumer, and what is the connection, the emotional connection that they want to have. I think that's going to be very, very important every day more in the future, that connection of the intention, understanding the intention of the consumers. I think that's going to be number one. I think the second one will be to partner with companies who understand in-depth insights, who go beyond the, the normal, I will say, standard advertisement methodology. I think that will be the second one. And the third one really to understand as well, how much advantage you as a startup have against the brands, because you are agile, you are able to adapt quickly to the changes of the consumer. I think you have a huge advantage when you think about the big brands and how slow they are moving into these changes that happened just 2 years ago.
And another big advantage you as a startup have is try new things. You have nothing to lose at the end. So it sounds simple, but it isn't. It's really go in if you really understand who is your target group, who is the one you want to sell something, try things fast, analyze them very fast, switch the campaign, try again. Try all channels you have available when you know there are your customers you want to target, but just try it. Other than brands, you can do it because a brand always has to think about compliance, maybe other topics they need to touch. You're not available yet. You're not a brand yet. So you can simply start and run fast. Fail fast, as often said, learn from it and do it again. Maybe with a different setup.
Yeah, I'd say for us, the scale-ups that we see do this really well are the ones that keep it simple. I think it's, in a way, more complicated than ever. As you say, we're now having to look at different mindsets, different devices again, and so on. But it's easy to fall into making it too complicated. So the ones that we see do it really well are keeping their personas to maybe just 3 or 4 to start with, and seeing what works and building from there. The other big thing is if you have quite a wide range of consumers within your target, you need to be careful that you don't make it too detailed as well, because you fall into the trap of actually, if you go with the average of everyone, it represents no one within it, which is easy to do. And there's plenty of case studies of bigger organizations that have fallen into that trap as well. So for me, it's just keep it simple.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing. If we're looking now at the fact that, change is a constant, it's here to stay. And we've talked about the fact that the startup's agility is a major win for this segment. Are there any concrete tools, structures, platforms, anything that from your perspective makes sense in order for startups to adapt to this constant consumer behavior changes?
Yeah, I don't mind kicking that one off.
Yep.
I think from a scale-up point of view, as Bernd said, agility is our biggest advantage. So we can't lose sight of that. So I think part of it in terms of structures and setups is, as a founder, this is far easier said than done, is to let go a little bit and let the team take over it. And actually realize some of the team may be better at this than we are ourselves. The other one is to just test constantly. We have some incredible founders in our network. So Melissa, who you now know, Mikey, from Nourished, Melissa has a set test budget within her marketing budget where she effectively gives it to the team and says, look, I don't expect any results from this, but I do expect learnings. And that kind of emphasizes how important it is. So for those that are looking to test, I would test as frequently as you can, run different experiments, but do so with a set amount of time, a set budget, a hypothesis, so you can clearly say, yes, this works, or no, it doesn't at the end. The worst thing to do is to spend a load of time and money and not know if it was a success or not. So I think be have that very, very defined before you even kick off.
Yeah, good point.
I will probably add, I think, tools or techniques, I will call it, solutions, in terms of go beyond only, the standard ads. Go and try new formats, new solutions to connect with your consumers. We're thinking about intuitive advertising or native advertising. We're talking about video ads, text ads, in video, image video ads. So I think those are solutions who can help you to connect emotionally with your audience. And I will encourage everyone to try and test with any of the partners and, of course, with us as well.
And let's assume you've done everything correct now. Also start thinking of the journey, the data journey you need to fulfill at the end to do the right analytics. So I would not recommend as well a tool, because it really depends on each of you, what is your need. But go through your data journey and then check the market, which tooling or tool set can help you to collect the right data. Maybe it's not a SaaS tooling, software as a service tooling in the long run, because sometimes it inherits also the risk that you don't have that you're not the owner of the data. So if you're a very strongly data-driven company, it's sometimes better not to buy the Ferrari at the first, but maybe a lower version or a simpler version, but use it in depth. I take one example. I don't like it anymore, but Salesforce, for example. It's the Ferrari. It's big, but most people use maybe 5% of it. So it's not often, especially for you kind of companies, worth the money you have to pay. So look really what is your need, go into detail, and then try toolings, but first be aware of what you really need, and then test it. And keep your data with you. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Emil.
I would be interested in knowing which is the low version of the Ferrari, though.
For us, we, for example, use an open source software called ICCube. It's from Switzerland. For us, we've got data scientists and stuff. It's already bigger. It's getting bigger, but you get it for free. You can start pretty simple. We're using a data warehouse tooling, also open source, because our philosophy internally is use more open source software. You can work on it by yourself a little bit if you have some developers. And if you ask me for one last recommendation, maybe, which is low-cost open source as well, is Odoo from Belgium. Some people may know it from OpenERP. I'm fascinating from it because it has a core, data core, and then you use apps outside of it, so you can very flexible increase your business using different angles with regards to your need, and it's very cheap. It's cheap, and it's based on Python, open source again, so you can develop yourself as well apps on the Odoo environment.
Cool.
Okay, three.
I hope everyone took some notes. We mentioned already a bit like the difference in sizes. So there are smaller startups, there are scale-ups, and so on. Is there a difference into anything what you just said that people from smaller startups should consider, or maybe employees from bigger startups, or is it doesn't really matter?
From my point of view, it doesn't really matter. It's maybe a matter of budget, but with regards to your need, there is no difference. You need to start from the very beginning with the right thinking of what is the solution that I require to fulfill the business I want to set up.
Yeah, I think the same for me, to be honest. I think it is businesses of all sizes need to consider this. But again, for scale-ups, I think it's maybe a shift in mindset. Actually, if they're doing all this testing, they need to realize that it's their advantage that they can actually react to the results in real time, where they don't have to jump through the internal hoops that some of the bigger companies have to. So again, any and all advantages, fair or unfair, I think scale-up should be taken advantage of.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and you're right. There's one big difference as well. Startups have less stuff. The bigger you get, the more stuff you have, and the easier it is to find maybe a data scientist or whatever. So, for sure, yes, there is a difference then.
Okay, good that we clarified that. Now I know we've talked a lot about getting it right for the consumer behavior changes, having the right advertising strategies, the right insights. It's key. I know you gave already a few recommendations how startups can get started, at least what they need to keep in mind. Is there anything you would like to add to that? Anything you feel like maybe some of the people here in the room would like to get started with it, and how can they?
Yeah, I think, and particularly if you're coming from a startup or a scale-up, the first thing to do is get close to your customer. It's far easier for you to do that than the bigger organizations. So really get to know them, and if you're the founder of that business, I think you can literally call them and have that conversation. So I think that's a big first step into really understanding personas and how people are acting online, and therefore how you can target them. And the other one, and again, much, much easier said than done, is trying to make your own team comfortable enough to share with you how they spend their time. And as I say, a lot easier said than done, because you need to make them feel very comfortable to say, actually, I was looking at shoes for this 20 minutes. But it might give you some important insight and may just change the way you work going forward.
I think from my side will be, particularly startups, when you are starting up a company, you're very careful about budget and about your cost. So starting probably with a low budget, right, in a network which offers you the right audience, and working also through partners, I think that's a really good start with no risk. So yeah, that will be my biggest advice for all of you who are starting.
There's not really much to add, to be honest. But one thing maybe, think about partnerships as early as you can. Talk to as many people as possible, get feedback all the time, challenge people you talk to get feedback and try to learn from it. Most people won't copy your idea. So it's easy to talk, have the courage to do it. Then you get good feedback and then you can learn from it.
Thank you. That's great. And before I ask for the last question around the major takeaways, and I don't want to double anything. You've already shared a lot of recommendations. Just if you have something to share on that, on top of that, just for the room, we would start now with the open Q&A. So please feel free to scan the QR code, send in your question, or raise your hand, and then we take your question just like that. And so, coming back, any major takeaways that you would share for today?
For me, what I see over the last 2 years, and it started already earlier, before the pandemic, is the so-called VUCA principle. So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The environment is changing faster and faster, and that's the biggest advantage you as a startup have. You are fast, you are agile. Think about VUCA all the time. When you grow, take VUCA back into your mind and start again.
I will say from the consumer behavior point of view, try to think about a little bit in advance. You see the changes happen in the last 2 years quite quick. So try to be on top of that and understand, how technology and human, it is actually interacting in each of us. I think that's a big point that is going to help you in the future with your online campaigns, and how to connect with your consumers better.
And I think for me, it's just to reiterate that point of constant testing. I think let's not be fooled into thinking now with these new personas and new customer behaviors, that's the way it is. I think it's we've got to realize that it will change again. It's hard to say how quickly, but I think we've just got to constantly be on that testing. And as I say, not just for targeting, but for our communications and for our own product development as well.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a super interesting conversation. I think we have a lot of really interesting insights discussed that really circles around the Workday consumer. I hope, that has definitely helped a lot here in the room to understand a bit what can we adjust in our advertising strategy. And is there any question from the audience? Anybody who would like to have a certain question asked? Back there. Yeah, so the question was, what are the future trends for startups that they need to watch out for? Was that for somebody specific? Was that for somebody specific? James.
Yeah, I think one thing that we see a lot of our founders are really preparing for is that continuation of digitalization and the domino effect that causes. So particularly the fact that actually if you're moving more to a digital standpoint and direct consumer, actually things are possible. You can effectively expand internationally and start serving an international audience if you're not so focused on physical retail space. So I think it's to continue looking at what else is possible with that, but also with that comes, I mean, in the UK, we definitely saw it with Brexit, is actually a change in regulation can quite quickly come in and take away the hard work you put into that. So for me, I think it's just a much heightened awareness of what's going on around you in terms of politics, geography, everything else that comes with it if you are looking at digitalizing your business going forward.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much. We have another another question here. I started a coaching business for private people. Is doing interviews with people a good way to find out what they need and how they like the advertising? There's somebody who would really like to stand out with their coaching business from all the others. The question is doing an interview with people, probably finding out about their preferences in terms of, I suppose it's advertising. Is that a good idea to understand the values? And I hope I get the question right. Please correct me, whoever asked this question. In terms of values, preferences, is it a good way to do that?
Well, that could be one of the paths. Like, there is no the right path for that. I mean, no, it's not the right path. There are many, sorry. There are many paths for that. I think that could be one. The second could be, work with service providers who understands in depth the needs of the consumers you are looking for. Go and understand as well. If you don't have the budget, then, come to us and we will guide you in terms of, give you the audience that you need, or at least the insights of the audience that you are looking for, right? So I think starting alone, it is a bad decision. Just go and partner, just because you probably won't have the network at this point. Go and look for the partners, go and look for the online services which can provide you with that answer. And go and look for the, platforms who can offer you the biggest network, I will say, and the broader network you are looking for.
Maybe one comment also. An idea could be also go out on the street, create a product. It doesn't have to be finished, but it could be the product you have in your mind, and go to the people, ask them, would that be of interest for you? You don't have to invest a lot, but you get a really good feedback then.
Great. Good. Sounds super. I have another question here. Any advice for the first funding round regarding to your past experiences?
Pretty difficult. It depends on your business. If you can start with a low budget, then really go to business angels that can not just help you with money. Then you really need somebody who supports you, who has got a network, is your counterpart to challenge you. If you want to start with a huge vision, go to an institutional investor from the very beginning. Otherwise, you have in Series A, B, and C problems with regards to your cap table.
Yeah, I think the other thing is you've just got to be prepared to speak to literally hundreds of people. And it's fairly easy to burn out doing that. So I think you've got to, once you've narrowed down the type of investor you want, actually the investors within that bucket that you need to be speaking with. So I think there's fairly basic things you can do, like go to Crunchbase. You can literally search businesses just like yours and see who's invested in them. So you know those people investing your type of business. And the other thing that I can't state has been important enough is referrals, and more importantly, where those referrals come from. So we recently hosted a couple of weeks ago a session on this in New York, and a couple of the founders were saying actually a family member had referred them to an investor, but that is nowhere near as impactful as if it was from another founder that truly understood the space. So I think they're my big takeaways from our network.
Thanks for sharing. Another question is, what are the biggest customer needs that need to be addressed in the future from your point of view? What
It's a
jumps
broad
right
one.
into mind? Who wants to go first?
I'm thinking still, but I think we said it a couple of times. You need to touch them at the right timing. And the big challenge is you need to be GDPR compliant. That's the biggest challenge you're going to face. So that's going to be a future need to collaborate, find solutions where you can collect data or can use data from other databases. Other than that, you're going to be lost. The other thing could be that there is a change in mind that you need to combine on and offline businesses more and more. The people want to have a continuing journey from offline to online and backwards. So that's going to be a big issue, I guess.
Yeah, yes. Just to add on that, now that I think about it, so I think it's going to be pretty much about understanding the audience. And if you don't know, right? If you don't know and you are asking, what is that the customer needs, come to us, right? Come to experts like us, which we can provide you with that according to the needs, according to your business industry, according to your target audience, but also your product. And we have a huge spectrum on data analysis and insights that Microsoft can provide you.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to start a business or just launch a new product within your own business, I heard it put really well last week by a lady that runs Bayer Fertility. She was saying the best businesses take things from scarcity to abundance. So when you're looking at what Airbnb did with accommodation or what Uber did with taxis, I think if you're looking for a fresh idea that's going to be enormous, it's that challenge of scarcity to abundance.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone. Thank you so much for your attention. I'd say we stop this brilliant session and the great conversation. Thank you so much at this stage. Please, as I said, stick around. Please feel free to reach out to our wonderful panelists for a one-on-one advice or just a nice conversation if you'd like to. We're here for a bit longer. Could I please ask you to all fill out our feedback survey? Feedback is a gift. We'd love to know how you liked it, what we could do better in the future. And when you've done the feedback survey, you will get a little confirmation that says vielen Dank, thank you. And if you show it at the exit, you will get a little gift from us today. Thank you so much to James, Yaravi, and Bernd. Thank you so much to you for your attention, and have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.